Well, hey, Michael.
Hey Nathan,
Good morning. How are you?
another great morning hanging out with you.
I like that shirt. It's nice and
Hey,
red.
yeah,
Yeah, I see Mark Bowers is on here. Hey, Mark. Good to see you every morning here at 11 o'clock. Hey, yeah, this is Kickstart, Mission Discovery's devotional. Every day we're meeting here at 11 o'clock a.m. to kickstart our day in the Word. And we do this every day on a mission trip. Hey, Jennifer Winkley and Jimmy Rivera. Um, every time we get together, we get into the Word. Somebody different from one of our mission trips will join us here today. We have Michael. Guess who it is?
is it Becky Hinze?
It is Becky Hinze. Yeah, I was
Look at
wondering if
that.
you'd get that right because I just told you. Yeah, and she actually recorded this last week, so she was recording for Holy Week. But it's still a great message. I just listened to it again this morning. Um, but it's about 10 minutes long, so I'm going to just go ahead and click right over to it so we can get into it. But if you don't know Becky, she's wonderful. She's been on mission discovery trips to Balimbu, to Arizona, to Haiti with me, doing medical trips down in Haiti. And Michael, I do have a special surprise for you at the end.
Oh, I'm just. I'll hold my breath. How
I
about
did
that?
this just for you. Well, I'm going to say it. It's Noel. Pastor Noel is going to read the Numbers blessing, the blessing that we find in Numbers chapter 6 over us
Oh,
before we start our day. So we're going to hear from Becky. We're going to come back, wrap this up, and then Pastor Noel will dismiss us in the Word. So it's going to be sweet.
that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So let me click over to Becky now.
Hey, good morning, Mission Discovery friends and family. I'm so happy to be here with you. Thanks for asking me, Jimmy, to share just a little bit um, to kickstart you this morning. My name is Becky Hinze, and I have been taking teams with Mission Discovery since 2009. Lots and lots of places, watching God work all over the world and just getting to be a learner and getting up to be a part of that. I live in Forest, Texas with my quarantine partner, Rick Hines. We've been married for a really long time. And so here we are. We are so proud and happy to have been a part of the Mission Discovery family. I had the honor of being on the board for several years and just so proud to, again, have been a part of this great ministry. And so, thank you for all that you are doing. I plan to take another team to Bulimbu in July, so we're praying about that and trusting God that His will be done in the midst of all that. Today, I wanted to look at Philippians 1 through 3 through 11. I glanced at that last week as it was part of a Lenten reading, and it just struck me, wow. Paul was in house arrest when he wrote this letter to the Philippians, and I feel like that's what we are. Y'all, we're in house arrest. We are in quarantine. I'm not real sure what that meant, how many freedoms he had, but from what I understand, he was pretty much in prison in a place for over a couple of years. And we know that Paul was not he was not a stranger to prison. And actually, the scholars think that he was in Rome while he wrote this letter. But think about it. The Philippian jailer, that we know that story, some of us pretty well, came to Christ, he and his whole family, because of the type of prisoner that Paul was. So he took his chains very seriously. I know I was raised with a lot of prison talk around me. I have a picture of my papa that I want to show you guys. He was such an interesting, boisterous, fun, joyful man. And he had the interesting job of being a superintendent for the construction team of the prison in Huntsville, Texas, which is quite a famous place. And He did that many, many years ago. And so even though he was joyful and full of fun for all of us grandkids, we did not joke around about what happened in prisons and the horror that was there. So while we may think we're in prison, we are just experiencing a little tiny bit of isolation is what's going on with us. So let's read the passage. It's Philippians 1, 3 through 11 is what we're going to look at. And let me read that for us. I thank my God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now. Being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. It is right for me to feel this way about all of you since I have you in my heart. For whether I'm in chains or defending and confirming the gospel, all of you share in God's grace with me. God can testify how I long for all of you with the affection of Christ Jesus. And this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best and may be pure and blameless until the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, to the glory and praise of God. You know, this passage, it's really familiar to some of us, and I think that one of the reasons is I think we've used it kind of flippantly, like if you look at verse 3. I thank my God every time I remember you. We put that in on stationery and in letters, at the ends of emails, those kinds of things. But this greeting from Paul was in no way flippant at all. I think there's three things. You know, this is a kickstart, and every time I've been involved in one of those, whether it was Haiti or Swaziland or Arizona, we all have our gear and we're ready to go. So I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but there are just three things out of this passage that I thought is super helpful for me as I move forward in my week, this very important Holy Week. Well, the first thing is that Philippians is the book of joy. Now, and again, how does Paul do that when he's in prison? Well, he is. So I'm looking this statistic up, but joy and rejoicing is mentioned 16 times in this very short letter. It's just 4 chapters long. And so he was focused on joy. We don't know what was going on with them, and that is for a much longer study than a kickstart. But joy was super important. And he says here, I always pray with joy. So in the midst of his house arrest, in the midst of suffering, his prayers were with joy. And that's in verse 4. And the second thing that jumps out at me in these few verses is in verse 6. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Began a good work in you. Well, you know, for me, I came to Christ as a little girl, and I've been walking with him for a really long time. He has had a lot of work to do. And it's very interesting to me that in these later years, my kids are grown, I have grandchildren, he continues to work in me so that I can be complete when I see him face to face. We're going to end this quarantine time, all of us transformed differently I think a lot of that choice is up to us, is how we respond and how we allow God to do that good work in us. So Paul, in his own house arrest, is encouraging people to be joyful as he is joyful. He is reminding them that God has begun a good work in them. And then the very last thing, he prays for them. And this is my prayer in verse 9, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight. I think it's interesting. This is not a fluffy kind of love. This is not a superficial love or an immature love. The love that he is praying for these people in Philippi is a mature love, a love that abounds more and more in knowledge and depth of insight. How those two things relate, I think, unfolds through the rest of this book. So I would really encourage you, if you don't have any plans for the week leading up to Easter, that you spend some time in this chapter. It's full of joy. It's full of calling us to Jesus. Chapter 4, I believe it is, that we have such a beautiful picture of who Christ is. It's short. I just encourage you to do that. Thanks for letting me talk to you today. I really, I would leave you with this question as you think about your week. What great work has God begun in you since our lives have been turned upside down? I know we're looking at less work, less finances to deal with. We are definitely on the throes of retirement, and God's speaking to us to trust Him and not our finances for our future. Maybe you've lost your job completely, or maybe your health is not good. There's some real concerns about that. I know for those of you, our friends in Nashville, maybe you've been affected by the tornado, and then right behind that comes the coronavirus. If you are a first responder and you're watching this any time of the day, maybe when you get home at night, thank you. Thanks for what you're doing. I'm a nurse, and I am so proud to be part of that profession, especially during this time. But take that question with you. What good work has God begun in you? Have a wonderful week as this day has been kickstarted for you by Mission Discovery.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Nathan.
What an awesome message by Becky, man. I love what she says. And it is, I wrote this down as she was speaking. See? How is Philippians the book of, she called Philippians the book of joy. And while Paul was on house arrest, he wrote this book of joy. And so her question was, how is that even possible? And she was kind of relating how house arrest and what we're in quarantining, it's kind of it's very similar. So how can we have joy during this time? So I love that message, man.
Yeah, that's great.
Cool. She and then she ended. What did she end with? What good work has God began in you? So even now in quarantine, that's a good question to take. And in fact, I'll show you this image here. We've got an image that is uploaded to our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. You can go anywhere, download this image, and take it to your kitchen table or your small group via Skype or Zoom or however you're meeting with people right now. But it just kind of takes you through what Becky just talked about, and so you can take this there and make this kickstart last a little longer throughout the day. But we are so thankful to have Becky on the kickstart today. So, Michael, anything before we head out?
We got Thursday night evening meeting tomorrow. If you got God sightings that you've been seeing throughout the week, we would love to hear them. If you want, you can share those with us. Either email one of us or go to missiondiscovery.org/God sightings to share those. So,
hey, Peggy just said hi too, and Peggy, we're trying to reach Anna. So if you can reach out to Anna. She's supposed to do one of these, and I just haven't received it yet. So reach out to Anna and let her know that we love her, and we just need her evo. We just want her to encourage us one morning. So. But yeah, this is awesome, man. We've run out of time. I'm going to click over to Pastor Noel. Becky has been on several trips with us to Haiti, and she knows Pastor Noel very well. He is going to lead us out with a blessing from Numbers. So thanks everybody. We'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Numbers chapter 6, verse 24 to 26. The Lord bless you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Nous allons faire lecture ça en français dans Nombre, chapitre 6, verset 24 à 26. Que l'Éternel te bénisse et qu'il te garde. Que l'Éternel fasse luire sa face sur toi et qu'il t'accorde sa grâce. Parole du Seigneur.